Have I ever talked about how I, for a while, was a fraudulent psychic, also known as a psychic? Have I ever talked about that? Little Star's pretty good early on. Because if I haven't, I really should have. You mentioned it once. Alright, good. At least I mentioned it once. I think on an April Fool's. Oh, cool. So I've never heard that, I think. Alright, well, hey, I'll it was so chaotic. So here's the deal, right? So, some of you may be aware that I have been, I've done, like, magic and mentalism and stuff like that, right? And a part of that is psychological reading, psychological manipulation, and or the appearance that you're doing one of the above. Which obviously has a lot of overlap with psychics. Which I'll say right now, psychics, not real. Not real. I say that fairly confidently. Not real, fellas. But I thought, hey, I always like would mention offhand to friends and whatnot. I was like, I feel like I could do that. I could be a psychic so easily, right? So easily. And there was some uncertainty, but it's like, hey, I thought, I say that all the time, but is it real? Is that true? So I put my money where my mouth was, and I became a psychic. So I applied to a Hotline Psychic website, right? And I did a lot of studying in advance. I didn't need to. And I have tarot decks for fun. Oh yeah, tarot decks are a fun time. They're not doing anything meaningful, but they can, like, cause self-reflection, which is interesting. So I apply, and I get in, and it's like, cool. And I decided relatively early on that, like, online chats were better than phone calls. For a couple of reasons. One, you have time to sort of think and craft what you're saying. And then two, and more valuable, for repeat customers, you can look back what you've told them before. So you can be reminded, because look, there's a lot of shit, and it becomes a blur after a while. I'm going to say it becomes a fucking blur. So, I ended up refining a script. How much money did Sean spend on your reading? Sean doesn't pay with cash. But I refined certain methods and techniques, especially like opening, because most of the chats, they would just be 5 minutes, right? Because there were like certain thresholds. I will say, I tried to be the least fraudulent of fraudulent psychics, which basically meant I tried to give good advice. I tried to give good, helpful advice wherever applicable. We may lose this one too, guys. I tried to give good advice wherever applicable. A lot of people just asking for dating advice, dude. They were like, hey, what is going to happen with me and this guy I like? And then I would just give very basic advice. So often it's like, hey, have you tried communicating? And people people are so starved for just simple good takes that telling them the bare basics of maybe you should communicate with your partner, and that will make things so much better. The cosmos have told me, the tarot have told me. People are like, wow. And then they would come back and be like, you were totally right. Sometimes they would tell me I was right, even though I really, really fucking wasn't. I really fucking wasn't. They'd be like, oh my god, exactly what you said would happen. And I just, like, vaguely... I gave a vague notion that, like, it would generally be okay. And they were like, exactly what you said would happen. Turns out he was cheating on me the whole time. And I was like, oh, hey! Sure, yeah, sure. I definitely... When I said things look to be on the right trajectory, what I meant, and what you picked up on very wisely, was he's cheating on you. We all knew that that's what I said. We all knew that that was the underlying message there. It's wild. And I had hundreds of 5-star reviews, ladies and gentlemen. 5-star reviews. People loved me. People loved me. Spirit told me his lack of XYZ in communication will reveal like kind of go back into the business to get healthcare. I did feel kind of scummy about it. And it is like kind of awkward because you're like on call. It has some conveniences because I could just keep it in the second window. And I will say the money was pretty good. You wouldn't get paid for a lot of the 5-minute chats because like the website would offer 5 minutes for free. But my prices were bottom of the barrel, because I felt bad. But even bottom of the barrel, I was getting paid, about $2 a minute. $2 a minute. If somebody is on the phone with me for a fucking hour, I made $100. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good. And once again, it's mostly just giving common sense advice. Sometimes I wouldn't be able to give good advice. There was one woman who was like, hey, there's this guy I'm interested in, right? And so I had some like generic message, go-to message about, I can tell that there's some interest on his end. Because interest, that's meaningless. Maybe there's interest. Does that mean that he's into you or not? Who knows? Who cares? Something like that. And I was like, cool, all right. And then she's like, all right, yeah, but it is a little bit difficult because he's my boss. And I'm like, ooh, him being your boss, not necessarily great. But so I like gently walk back my statement a little bit. And she's like, yeah, but I know that he's in love with me. And I'm like, okay, all right. Not a great dynamic, but I guess if you guys are in love. And he's like, I know he's in love with me, even though he has told me he's not. And I was like, he might be being honest. If the cards tell me he might be sincere. And then she's like, he tells me that he's not interested in me because he's married. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you're into your married boss? And then she's like, yeah, and I'm also married, by the way. And it was like, all right, so you're married. You're into your married boss. You've expressed this to him. He's told you, hey, I'm not interested in you. I am married. And in your mind, you're like, he's definitely interested. And then you went on to go check on a psychic to confirm that for you. That was the order of events? That's how that went down? That's crazy. That's insane. It's just truly wild. I also, in like a darker realms, there was one person who would constantly chat with me, and they would end all of my chats, and this happened repeatedly. They would end all of my chats by twisting my words, and because they'd like have relationship problems, and I would give some like generally optimistic advice of just like being able to push through and blah blah blah, right? Once again, milquetoast stuff. And she'd be like, so you're telling me to kill myself? And I was like, what the fuck? What the hell? And then she would end each chat. I would obviously be like, no, what the fuck, but in nicer language. And she would end each chat by being like, no, I get it. You're trying to tell me to go off myself. Well, I'm just going to do it. And then it would end the chat. And then, like, a couple weeks to a couple months later, would show up again. And that happened half a dozen times with the same girl. It was like, what the fuck? People are crazy. People are crazy. It's wild. I was like, what is your goal here? What is your goal? You want to spend money to try to mentally terrorize a fake psychic? Is that what you want? I just don't understand the purpose.